Good morning and welcome. It is 9 a.m. It is the 24th day of July 2021. The fog has rolled back in Ventura, which is very weird because my brain, I love the fog, but my body hates the fog. So it's a very interesting dichotomy because of stuff. Dichotomy? Sure, I made up a word. So I know people are all like, hey, you should talk about the whole controversial Wizards of the Coast CRT thing because blah. And I was like, no, I'm not going to talk about that because we can't prove it. It's not really what my table's about. Blah, 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 blah. Besides, why talk about that when Wizards of the Coast continues to do so many things that are still make no sense, but that I can actually show proof of. And in a week of Wizards of the Coast post G4 thing, continuing to do things that are make you go, why, and why? We have two more things that Wizards of the Coast has announced post G4 in regards to the future of Wizards of the Coast Hasbro Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And much like the one from the other day where Jeremy Crawford made that whole big thing about canon and lore in D&D, and people are like, why is this necessary? Nobody cares, and D&D doesn't have any canon really or lore. It's independent from each adventure, and each table is completely different, so it's not like it's the MCU or Batman or anything. It has no canon. Why is this important? So we have two more things that Wizards of the Coast and people associated with Wizards of the Coast has come out with. First, we have R.A. Salvatore announcing that he wants to correct the racist tropes of the Drow. Now, we know this is one of the things that started the whole racism thing, and that people were comparing Drow to some negative interpretation of people with dark skin. And so now Salvatore, almost a year later, is coming forward saying that from now on, the way I write, I want to redo all the Drow. I don't want them to be evil anymore. I'm going to, I never understood. I guess I didn't get it. When I made them, I didn't think that people would be so upset about them because now I realize that making Drow dark-skinned is a racist trope because it's portraying people with dark skin as evil, and it's based upon a real. Well, first, Mr. Salvatore, you made the Drow up. They are completely imaginary. They're not based on anything because there's nothing in the real world like them. There is nobody who lives in the center of the earth who is chaotic, evil, spider-worshipping S&M porn figures. Though maybe there are people who wish there were. So now he wants to completely redo the history of Drizzt and the Drow, and he's so sorry if anybody was ever offended. In my entire life, I have never met anybody who was offended by the Drow or thought that the Drow and real-life people with dark skin were the same. But I guess somebody somewhere did, because that's why. And we know that Wizards of the Coast is doing this whole thing about orcs and Drow are no longer evil. Of course, this announcement is pointless since Drizzt and the Drow, at least as his creation, are not canon anymore, because if you go back to what Jeremy Crawford said in regards to what is and is not canon, anything post-2014, i.e. 5e, is canon, and anything pre-2014 is not canon, no longer exists. It's not part of the legal, official D&D lore canon world, which means anything Salvatore wrote or created before 2014 doesn't exist. So the only Drizzt that exists in D&D is the Drizzt as portrayed by Wizards of the Coast. Not Salvatore's. He doesn't exist anymore. So really, this is a pointless argument. But whatever. I understand the intent is good, But as with usual with these choices that Wizards of the Coast makes, and Mr. Salvatore probably receiving some pressure from Wizards of the Coast and the fan base, the way you're going about it is just wrong. And we have another one, because Jeremy Crawford can't keep his mouth shut. So I guess Jeremy Crawford has also said that basically the way we're going to do adventures from this point on is going to be completely different. We're going to present them in smaller chunks as opposed to big books. Because we understand people don't have a lot of time and they can't process that much information. And, with the exception of maybe things like the 7-hour Critical Role games, most games are done in 3 or 4 hours. So we want to start writing our adventures and creating our worlds and stuff in smaller, easy to digest chunks, so that you can, run it as a series of little teeny quests, and you don't have to absorb all that knowledge of an entire book. You can only read one little thing, use that little thing, finish that little thing, and then move on. Gee, it sounds a lot like Adventure Paths, Mr. Crawford. Or are you just assuming that your current crop of fan base is stupid and can't comprehend large chunks of information? Or are you just saying that you're writing the adventures so whatever happens on the first page has no if, and, or but relation to what happens on the last page, because we're just now writing our adventures in teeny little chunks where everything is just a series of intercontinental quests that can be done in one sitting that may or may not tell an exact story? Again, this is utterly pointless news that means absolutely nothing, that nobody cares about. And all you're doing is just basically saying, we're changing the way we write adventures, and people are like, I don't care. And we're now doing our adventures in small little chunks because we think you can't absorb all that information of an entire module. It's like, yeah, we can. What's your point here, Crawford? You think we're stupid? Are you just waving your ego for the sake of waving your ego? With every time Crawford announces one of these new pointless things, kind of reminds me of a peacock. Like he's just, waving his peacock feathers to get attention and go, look what I did. I'm making things relevant and important. And when you actually read them, you're like, no, you're not. But again, as with every choice Wizards of the Coast has made since pretty much 4th edition, or even going back to 3.5, and I hate, I feel like, I'm defending them and people get upset because I'm defending them. But really, you look at what they say, and then if you just take a moment to think about it, you go, well, I bet on paper this idea made sense, and I could sort of see what the point was. But then from paper to the mouth of Wizards of the Coast, which is right now apparently Jeremy Crawford, somehow along the way, the idea goes from being a reasonable, good idea to an utterly stupid presentation of the idea that all it does is make people question Wizards of the Coast's choices, get angry at Wizards of the Coast, feel insulted, continues the whole Twitter thing, continues the separation of players. There's going to be the players who appreciate this, though I don't know if there's going to be anybody who appreciates the idea of them being told that they can only absorb small bits of data in short sittings. Because basically you're saying we're stupid. So, yeah. See, I get it. I get the idea. I see the intent. I can pierce through the fog of ridiculousness and go, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing here. I see what you're saying. Why is it, though, you continue to say these things in such a self-destructive, stupid way where people are just going to get either positively riled up or negatively riled up? Or are you just doing this because you want people to be riled up? And in the case of the stuff that's coming out of Crawford's mouth this week, it seems to be mostly just desperate attempts for attention. Anyways, because Wizards of the Coast cannot keep its mouth shut, there's some more Wizards of the Coast news. Now, I assure you there are things going on in the gaming world that are not related to Wizards of the Coast, and I really wish we could talk about them more. But of course, Wizards of the Coast yells the loudest. But tell you what, help me hit 1,000 subs, and I will never talk about Wizards of the Coast again. So if you haven't subbed yet, there's a dare. Sub to my vlog, help me hit 1,000 subs, and if I hit 1,000 subs, I will never talk about Wizards of the Coast again. What do you think of that? Till next time, I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming. I will talk to you later.